Shabbat Shalom. My name is Paul Lewin. I'm the Rabbi of the North Shore Synagogue in Sydney, Australia. Alumni of the Gush, Yeshivat Arzion from 1990 to 1999. It's an honor and a privilege for me to address you on this week's Parashat Korach. Korach is the story of the rebellion between Korach and his followers towards Moshe Rabbeinu and his authority. It is a multifaceted argument, multifaceted rebellion, and when we try and analyze it and look at it, we'll notice the following, is that it wasn't just Korach, it was Korach and Adato. And when Moshe Rabbeinu when they come to Moshe Rabbeinu to complain, it appears as if there's one heading, Kulam Kedoshim, says Korach. But then this Parashat does something fascinating. That Moshe Rabbeinu, instead of addressing them straight away, he sends each of them back. And then he addresses Korach, he addresses the Bnei Ruvain, he addresses Datan and Aviram. And what he's clearly discovered is that although the main heading of that rebellion was Kulam Kedoshim, we are all holy, there were actually different agendas that were at play. And for each of them, it became very clear that Moshe's response was never going to work as a singular response. He needed to respond for each one separately. And we find that in the Parasha, this is exactly what happens. Those who were Kulam Kedoshim, who wanted this experience, they wanted to be like Aaron HaKohen, they had the tests with the incense. Datan and Aviram, who had the rebellion against wanting to go to Israel, what Moses had done to them in the desert, they received their punishment very separately. And the lesson that I take from this is that when a person comes to complain to us, and they come with a major topic, this is our issue, and everyone is in agreement. When there's a group that comes with the group that comes in front of you, realize that it might not be as monolithic. It might be far more nuanced. And it reminds me of an experience that I had multiple times with Rabbi Aaron Lichtenstein Zatzal. Whenever we'd ask him a shaila, and I'd go sit with him, the first thing he would do was he'd analyze the question with me, work through the question, to make sure that he understood what the question was, what was bothering me. And almost like opening a document of a legal document, and you have terms of reference. So too, when you asked Rav Lichtenstein a shaila, there were terms of reference. When you mean Kulam Kedoshim, what are you talking about? Kulam Kedoshim, what exactly does that mean? And it became very clear that first of all, I wasn't sure about what my question was. But the amazing thing was, when sitting with Rav Lichtenstein, was that it became clear that he cared about my question and he wanted to understand it clearly so that he could answer my question. Too many times, people ask the Rav a question, people ask the teacher the question, but that they're not paying attention to what is actually being asked. They have an answer which they just throw out. And when you leave the Rav, you might feel frustrated. I never got the answer that I was looking for. I've played this game in my role as a teacher and a Rav of a school. And I asked the question to the students, how often have you asked a question of your teacher? The teacher responds, but you don't feel satisfied by the answer, because that was not what you were asking. Moshe Rabbeinu, in this week's Parashat Korach, teaches us this important lesson. When people come to you and they're angry and they're upset, the first reaction is, let's try to diffuse the situation. Everyone, go home. I will then come and speak to each of you individually. And once you do that, and once you give time to listen to what people have to say, hear their complaints, then you can address them. If Moshe Rabbeinu had just said, Kulam Kedoshim, okay, let's go and do the Ketoret, the Datan and Aviram would have been frustrated, because that was not really what they were arguing about. They just jumped on the Korach bandwagon. Korach was successful in getting people to join up, to sign up to his agenda. But the people who joined up with the agenda had no idea what they were signing up to. Moshe Rabbeinu was sensitive enough to realize what the problem was, that there were multiple issues that had to be addressed. And we can take that lesson from the Korach's rebellion and Moshe's response and apply it to our own lives. When we, as Rabbanim, when we as Mechanchim, when we as parents are ask a question, just to take a few moments to analyze and ask, is this really the question that has been asked, or am I missing something in translation? Shabbat Shalom.